the first day of spring has arrived. The weather's changed in Starkville, right? Just thank you all for coming. Just really excited about getting out there today with the team. Yesterday we had an off day, and get back out there today in the sun shining in Starkville, and excited to get back to work. Certainly we have more work to continue in this preseason. We're scheduled to scrimmage tomorrow, and then scrimmage Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend, and then that'll take us into to opening day. So just generally I'd tell you that the team, the men are working incredibly hard. They're focused. We've continued, I felt, in this preseason to get incrementally better each week as we build these pitchers up. That's a big part of this is logging at bats for the players, and the pitchers continue to progress on a throwing progression, pitch count progression that Coach Parker and I have laid out for the pitchers for them to be ready to go for opening weekend. I know there's a lot of excitement coming into the start of the season, like there is every season, but I can tell you, for me personally, this opening day is one that I'm very much looking forward to, and just excited about what this team has in front of us. So, questions?
Steve?
You got a couple weeks left, obviously, to kind of prepare. What position battles are maybe you still kind of watching and still kind of determining as we get ready for opening day?
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, my approach has been they're all up for battle, right? But the reality is, you got an all-SEC third baseman back in Ace Reese. You got some guys that are back here that have certainly proven their capability. And so even though we continue to make it open competition, we're still trying to figure out different combinations of who might play where. I love that we've got a lot of versatility, right, from a position player standpoint. Somebody like Reed Stallman that had a nice year last year in this uniform. I think he had 10 or 11 home runs. I've been really impressed with his fall and his preseason and his versatility, his ability to play first base and corner spots in the outfield. He has, I'll tell you that probably James Nunnally and Reed Stallman in this preseason have been the most consistent from an offensive standpoint. That's not a knock on anybody else, because they're all starting to stack it up and put it together. But shortstop, second base, they're still competing there for opportunities. Behind the plate they are. I've been really impressed with the consistency of Kevin Maluski back there. I thought at the end of the fall, especially in the two fall games, he played really well behind the plate and ran our pitching staff very, very well. There's a lot of them that still open competition, but it's starting to take shape for us. I know that was very vague, Steve, but that's where it's at right now.
Robbie?
You had two of your, I guess you could say some of your biggest stars, Aiden Teal and Ace, out for at least a large part of the fall.
Yeah.
Have those guys gotten back up to speed? Do you like where they are health-wise right now?
I love where Aiden Teal and Ace Reese are right now. It was unfortunate that Ace Reese was out the entire fall just because of the defensive part of it. You wanted to be able to work with him and him to get reps for his progression and his development to help our team win and be successful. But that is what it is. I will tell you, in the 3 or 4 weeks that we've been back, I feel like his progression at third base has been very, very good. And we've gotten some really quality time in his development. And certainly Aiden Teal missing the back half of the fall, wasn't great. Aiden Teal's story, if you don't know it, is, and I'm not going to tell the whole thing, he was just a pitcher as a freshman, right, and got very little at bats, and last year was the first year he was a full-time position player, so it was unfortunate that he missed those opportunities. That said, his preseason's been very, very good. He's an elite defensive center fielder, can really go get it and really throw. And I believe there's a lot of extra base hit and some thunder in that bat too. So they've picked up in a great spot, and both of those guys are certainly going to be huge, key, everyday contributors for us and got great potential.
Doug.
Coach, I want to ask you a bit of a philosophical question. You've got a lot of experience on this team, but as you put the 15 and the 18 and the 8 together, how do you identify the leadership? Is it experience? Is it performance, personality, or something else?
Yeah, well, I actually did an exercise with the team about 2 weeks ago and gave them a piece of paper and asked them to define leadership, each of them individually. And then on that sheet of paper was also the roster, and asked them to turn the sheet of paper over and identify who they believe the leaders of this team are and why, right? And love it. Love reading every one of them, how they define leadership and who they look to as leaders and why. So certainly there's some returning state players that were listed quite a bit on that, but you'd also be surprised that there's some new players that got a lot of votes and great, words on why that they're leaders. And so I've just always been a believer that no matter what year you are or what your situation is, you can lead in your own individual way. So, we will not have captains at Mississippi State, this year, right? Because I believe that everybody has to lead in their own individual way, right? And so it's a continued work in progress, but certainly, the guys that have performed here well already and lead by example the right way are guys that were highly recommended on those papers on great leaders of this ball club.
Carlo.
Hey, Coach. This might be a kind of an old question, but how have you seen the guys from Virginia and the Mississippi State guys gel together? But also, you've done plenty of work in the portal, so you have basically two kind of teams, and then you've got new guys come together. How have you seen, the culture that this group has created?
Well, I can tell you this, that I had a into the fall meeting, so in early November, I spent 30 to 45 minutes individually in the Hall of Champions room with every player, talking about their fall, talking about their team, all right, and how they felt about the program, how the fall go and things like that. To a man, almost every one of them said, this is the best culture, team culture, that I've been a part of. And that was really great to hear, right? And I shared that with the entire team, that so many of their teammates felt that way. And in order to develop that, you have to have intentionality with what you do every day. The leadership does, right, to create that. But the reality is, great culture is ultimately determined by how that group and that clubhouse manages and handles adversity. Because adversity is coming, right? And it's going to come often in this game and in this program. Everybody deals with it, right? And that is when you find out truly what kind of culture you have. And the second thing that I told them is, for the last 6 months, we have been scrimmaging and 2 teams have been playing. Everybody gets to play. Well, next Friday, it's one lineup, all right? And how they manage that in that clubhouse is critically important to the culture. And that's coming, right? And so the gelling of the returning Mississippi State guys, some of the Virginia guys, the other transfers, the freshmen, I have been ecstatic about how it has went, right? And when you work hard and you pour yourself into it every day as a player, right, then that meshing and gel happens, right? And what I have seen that has been most impressive to me is not the rah-rah stuff. Hey, buddy, come on, let's go, right? It's actually one player to another player taking the time to help him develop. It might be a sophomore or a junior showing a freshman a pitch grip of how he throws a changeup, right? And they don't look at it as competition within the clubhouse. They look at it as a teammate, right? And the same thing happens from a position player standpoint. And when you have that and you see that with your eyes as a coach and you have some talent, you believe that you got a pretty good chance.
Sam?
Two quick questions for you. First, the no captains part, not naming a captain. Is that something you've always done at Virginia and bring here? Or is that something just unique to this team?
Yeah, I've went back and forth on it over the years. It's been a number of years actually since I have had the captain title, and have done it in different kind of forms depending on the year, right? And I will tell you, even though that decision has been made, that that's an ongoing process of how we're going to handle that. You know, I've had situations before where we've had captains for a week, right? I've done it in all kinds of different forms. I just really believe that, like, I don't want the young men looking to one or two guys to say the words, right, that need to be said. Everybody has a voice, right? And, you know, I've just seen teams over the years, the leadership start to take place throughout the year, right? And develop throughout the year. And that's why I believe that it's important to handle captains and leadership that way with this year's team.
And then just, are there any injuries to note about the team going into the season right now?
Not right now. Nothing that I wouldn't say that anybody's out. You know, when you're dealing with guys coming back, you know, sometimes there's a blip on a pitcher that you have to gear him back a little bit, and he might not meet the pitch count that we have. You know, we've had a player or two, position player, that, you know, hasn't been able to throw for 3 days because bicep tendonitis and things like that happen on every team. But as of right now, there's nobody right now that cannot compete this weekend in our scrimmages.
Camden?
Coach Camden Morris out of Jackson. You've had a lot of different messages today. Can you tell me just what your main message is, you know, just a little over a week away going into opening weekend?
The players,
Like your
That-
main message you want to give
the
to
players that are going to play and pitch will be the ones that display consistently a winning attitude, right? And what is that, right? That is toughness, that's grit, and that's playing to win every pitch, right? Those will be the guys that will be on that field wearing this uniform to win for Mississippi State every day. And the players know that, okay? And so that's been my message, right? And, you know, the overall group is excited about what they have in front of them and looking forward to the opportunity. And we just have a little bit more work to get done before we're ready to go. So,
Joe?
Coach, we've obviously seen all the high rankings and everything that's come out.
Yeah.
Is there anything internally that you address with your team as far as, you mentioned earlier, adversity's coming in this game, it's going to happen. Is there anything that you teach to you preach to your team as far as managing those expectations and keeping them loose, I guess, over the course of a long season where there's ups and downs?
well, it's a lot of things. It's day to day. You know, if you would have been at our scrimmage after the Thursday after the scrimmage was over, you know, I was standing on home plate with the team around me, and I'm jumping up and down on home plate, and the veins are coming out of my neck, right? Because I'm so passionate about what it means to them, right? What this means. Right? And I talk to them about the hallowed ground that they're standing on in this stadium, and it's got to mean everything to them, right? And so, you know, certainly the prognosticators out there, right, have ranked this team, you know, very high and all that. We've talked about that as a team, right? We will, if that's what we are, we will earn that out on the field, and that's earned every day, okay? Right now, it's got a place, and it's over here, right? And you play in a program of this magnitude, there's constant things that you could view as a distraction, right? I'm not saying that's part of playing in a program like this, right? And what I talk to them about is you, as a man, you make a choice. You either run to it or you run away from it, right? And I believe that this group of young men are excited about running to it, right? And you can't run away from expectations, right? It is what it is. It's got its place, right? It comes down to going out there and playing tough, great, fundamental baseball. That's what this program was built on and will continue to be built on.
Got time for one or two more, Roddy?
I feel like since the summer, you talk to state fans, and the depth in the talent on this team has created so much conversation about lineups. And
Yep.
how do you get players in there? Garrett Fry is one of those guys that constantly comes up as a guy, like, fans want to see him in the lineup.
Yeah, sure.
But it's kind of a tough deal because you have great players at these positions. Where does he fit? Where is he kind of working right now? Where do you feel like he kind of fits into the equation?
Well, that's a great question. I'll say this about Garrett Fry, right? Garrett Fry's a winner. Garrett Fry's tough. He's got grit, okay? The fans at Mississippi State are proud of Garrett Fry because of how he goes about his business every day, right? And so Garrett Fry's been working at second base primarily, a little bit at third base, okay? The entire fall and in the preseason. Has spent more time in the preseason at second base, right? And so I know it means a lot to Garrett Fry, right? And we're going to count on that young man to do really great things for us to be the kind of team that we want to be. The managing of, listen, everybody looks at player acquisition, the transfer portal, and things like this. And this player did this, or was the player of the whatever, and this or that, right? It all comes together, right? And I told every one of them when we recruited them, there's no promises, right? The promise we make to you is that we will pour into you every day. And the promise to every guy in that clubhouse is when that lineup is written out, the coach will make the decision on that day of what I believe is the best thing for Mississippi State to win the game in front of them. That's what I owe them. Everything else leading up to that, it's earned, right? And so, yeah, there's some really good options. Sometimes what's the opening day lineup might not be the lineup that's the lineup on the 4th day or the 14th day. And that takes shape and will continue to take shape. But I like what we have. I love the competition. Listen, great competition. The players in the clubhouse brings out the best in them. And we'll find out. We'll find out who wants it and who the best are, right? Because they're going to earn it.
Got time for one more, Steve?
Last year, Coach, UVA, there was a lot of expectations of that team.
Yeah.
And you had some adversity. What do you feel like maybe you and your staff learned from last year that could benefit this team this year, deal with expectations?
Well, Steve, you're always learning. There was a 2-year segment there when I was at Virginia after we had won the national championship, like 3 and 4 years after that we didn't make the NCAA tournament and just felt very short. So you're learning something all the time as a coach. And last year that team made a great run at the end of the year, put it together, made a great run. It was just too late, right? We lost too many midweek games. The lesson from that for the coaches and the players, right? The players do the playing. It's important that they understand it, right? That every game matters. And you don't know until the end of the year which ones were the difference makers, right? And so, that's the approach. That'll be the approach of this year's team, that no matter who you're playing, weekend, midweek, they all matter. If you want to accomplish what you want to accomplish, be an NCAA tournament team, have a chance to win an SEC regular season title, host a regional, host a super regional, be a top 8 national seed, like every one of them matters, right? And so, that's a little bit of what I learned, but I had learned that earlier in my career, and so, but you're constantly learning in this game.